Dear friend, welcome back to our devotional journey through the life of Moses. Today we enter chapter 27, titled Preparing for Pisgah. This is one of the most stirring, beautiful, and emotionally rich chapters in the entire book. Here we stand with Moses, at the threshold of his final moments on earth. But his end is not one of rest or retreat. It is full of purpose, passion, and legacy. Let us begin where the chapter begins, with the words of a faithful servant facing the end of his earthly journey. Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 2 says, "And Moses said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also the Lord hath said unto me, Thou shalt not go over this Jordan." These are not the words of defeat. They are the words of a man who knows the limits of his life, but also the greatness of his God. We might imagine that Moses' final year would be peaceful, like Bunyan's land of Beulah, where the pilgrims walk in sunlight just before they cross into glory, a place where birds sing, flowers bloom, and sorrows fade. But Moses' final season was not quiet. It was as active and demanding as any part of his life. First came the conquest of eastern Canaan. The eastern border of the Promised Land was no peaceful frontier. Two kings, Sihon of the Amorites and Og of Bashan, ruled this land with strength and pride. When Israel requested peaceful passage, Sihon refused and assembled his army to drive them back. But God had other plans. The battle came quickly, and Israel's slingers and archers prevailed. As their victory song declared, "We have shot at them. Heshbon is perished. Sihon's army was shattered. His cities surrendered." And the Israelites gained possession of a rich land stretching from the Arnon to the Jabbok. Fields of barley, hills of wheat, green meadows, all were now theirs. But there was more. To the north lay Bashan, a beautiful and fertile land filled with oak forests and olive groves. Og, the king of Bashan, was a giant of a man famous in both size and strength. When he heard of Sihon's defeat, he gathered his forces to strike. The battle took place at Edrei, a key stronghold. But just as God had promised, Israel prevailed. Moses later wrote, "They smote him, his sons, and all his people, until there was none left remaining, and they possessed his land." No natural explanation can account for these victories. These were fortified cities with gates, bars, and thick walls. Some say God sent swarms of hornets to drive the enemy out into the open. Whatever the method, the victory was God's. Then came the next step. The people of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh asked to settle in the conquered lands. Moses agreed, but only after they promised to help their fellow Israelites conquer the land west of the Jordan. Moses said, "Ye shall pass armed before your brethren the children of Israel, until the Lord hath given rest unto your brethren, as well as unto you." Even in his last year, Moses was building unity. He was preparing the nation for what was still to come. Then came the most personal part of his farewell, his charge to the people. Moses began to speak to them with deep tenderness. What we now call the book of Deuteronomy contains a series of final messages from Moses' heart. Deuteronomy is unlike any other book of the Pentateuch. It is full of memory, urgency, and love. Moses pleads again and again, "Keep diligently, observe to do, remember the Lord." He describes the Promised Land with beautiful, vivid detail. A place, he says, in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 7, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills. It is a picture not only of a physical land, but of the spiritual rest available to every believer. Deuteronomy chapter 28 outlines blessings for obedience. It anticipates the words of Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount. "Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who trust and obey." And so Moses speaks knowing he will not enter the land, but longing to see his people thrive in it. Then came a pressing concern. Who would lead the people when he was gone? Moses turned to the Lord in prayer. Numbers chapter 27 verses 16 and 17 say, "Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may come in before them, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd." God answered by choosing Joshua, the son of Nun. Moses brought Joshua before the priest Eleazar and the people, and publicly commissioned him. Then, on the very day Moses turned 120 years old, he looked into Joshua's eyes and said, Deuteronomy chapter 31, verses 7 and 8. "Be strong and of a good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land, which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them. And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed." Soon after, the cloud of God's presence hovered over the tabernacle. God himself confirmed the charge, repeating the promise of his presence. Moses' final acts were not words only. He placed the book of the law into the Ark of the Covenant. He arranged for it to be read aloud every 7 years, so the people would never forget. Then, he wrote 2 final songs. One was a warning, a call to remain faithful. The other, a blessing on the tribe's wards filled with poetry, power, and peace. Deuteronomy chapter 32 contains Moses' final song, a majestic passage so profound that Revelation chapter 15 verse 3 says, "They sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb." Moses sings of God as a rock, of God's kindness, his protection, his discipline, and his mercy. And then, one last gift, his blessing on the 12 tribes. He speaks of the God of Jeshurun riding on the heavens to help, of the eternal arms beneath us, of security, fertility, and joy. All this from the man who once said, "I am not eloquent." Now empowered by God's Spirit, his lips speak glory. Behind him, 40 years of leadership. Before him, the face of God. He had longed to enter Canaan, but God had something better. The wilderness would fade, the pain would pass, and Moses would awaken, not in the land of promise, but in the presence of the promiser. Dear friend, this is the life of a servant, a man emptied of self, filled with God, faithful in the small, bold in the great, steady through storms, and ready to say goodbye with nothing left undone. May we too be found faithful. May we finish well. May our lives, like his, point not to our name, but to the name above all names. Thank you for joining us today for Chapter 27, Preparing for Pisgah. Subscribe to our channel. We're walking daily through the spiritual journey of Moses and beyond. We'll see you next time.